Hey, what's going on, world? This is your girl, Queen Aishah, and thank you for joining me, us, we, for another dope episode of I Know Dope People with who? Queen Aishah. And we having a special episode on tonight. We got some special announcements and all those things with a very special guest. But before we get into it with our dope guest, Miss Nneka J. Owens, I'm going to go over a few Queen's quickies. So, first of all, I'm just extremely excited that the weather is finally getting warm and like consistently warm here in the Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia area. Because if you don't know, the weather here is very emotional. It's bipolar, and it be doing a lot of things. Our ancestors the ancestors be trying us. They letting us know how they feel. But it is definitely hot Atlanta. This is what I've noticed already. So all week it's been like it said it's going to be in the 80s, but it's really been like 90 over 90 degrees. My water for my shower gets hotter as the temperature rises. The hot water gets hotter. So I don't know if anybody else experience that. So be very, very careful. I want to also mention my girl, Dr. Nicola Mitchell, the founder of Girls Who Brunch. They're having their seventh annual Tutus and Tennis Shoes fundraiser and scholarship gala. This will take place on, I believe that's the 29th. It's May 29th. I believe that is a Sunday from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. It's right here in Atlanta, Georgia, at 42 West Entertainment Group, 1080 Huff Road, Northwest I'm saying DC, Northwest Atlanta, Georgia. If you know DC, you know why I'm saying Northwest. Also, I just want to say the weather's getting warm in time for Mother's Day. This weekend is Mother's Day weekend. So all of the Rosses, the TJ Maxxes, the Marshalls, the Burlingtons, the Macy's, the Dollar Trees, they gonna be packed. And it's kind of like the first of the month too, and a pay week for some people. Get it, get it, get it. So in honor of it being Mother's Day on Sunday, I am re-airing or we're re-airing the interview I did with my mom, Geraldine, Jerry, Gigi, Mother Hogan's, Mama G, and all those names that she goes by. So be sure to check out that episode. A lot of people really enjoyed it. Again, the show will be on Saturday. This Saturday, that is May 13th. Time is flying, y'all. May 13th at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Okay? So I'm going to save this last part for when I bring my guests on. But I want to shout out my people, husband and wife, Mr. Anthony and Tanya Malloy. They have an awesome t-shirt company called Life and Godly Girl Tea. So I wanted a really nice like DC go-go shirt. And they designed one for me. I was like, oh my God, this shirt is doper than the shirts that I've seen. So, and I didn't know, my friends, I didn't know they had a t-shirt business. So they created this shirt. Well, they probably already had the creation, but I just love the colors and it's popping. And I think I told them I wanted yellow and they freaked it out for me. So they have a t-shirt company. It's called Life and Godly Girl Tees. Check them out. They are sponsoring the show today. Their website is lifeandgodlygirl.com since 2020. You know, I kept my bag. You can tell when people get excited when they get gifts. I was like, I'm gonna keep the bag. So Tanya and Anthony, thank you for my dope shirt. I will be rocking it. All right, so I wanted to send them some love. Those are my peoples. All right, so I'm going to introduce my guest, and when I introduce my guest, as we're interviewing, we'll make our announcement. So we have Miss Nneka J. Owens. She is a relationship therapist out of the Detroit, Michigan area. She is a highly sought after clinical therapist since 2006. She has a private practice in the Dearborn, Michigan area where she counsels couples, families, and individuals. She is a mental health and a behavioral health expert, and she has appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Network. The show is called, hold on, the show is called, I just had it here, hold on. This one you got a lot of notes. She just told me. It's called Unfaithful Betrayal. She gonna correct me when she come on. She gonna correct me, but I just had it in my notes. But she's done a whole bunch of things, and she has some really dope, like relationship tools that she uses. She has one called the Truth Party for relationships that she does, and she started that in 2009. And she also has Dating Under the Influence and the RAM concept that we're going to be discussing, an event that we're doing. And she was a keynote speaker at the 2013 Black Marriage Day celebration. So please welcome my new friend and buddy and partner for a special event, Miss Nneka J. Owens. Woo! Tell me the name. Tell me the name, Nneka.
It's Unfaithful Stories of Betrayal.
Unfaithful Stories of Betrayal on the OWN network. So you've appeared on that. So it's an episode. Do they have? So they have different episodes, and you just appeared on one of them, or you're the in-house expert for the show,
right? Yeah, it was just one that I appeared on, and this was back in, was it 2013 maybe? And I think they've since canceled the show, but yes, I appeared on one episode.
Okay, awesome. So tell us about Nneka J. Owens from Detroit.
From the D. Oh wow. Yes. And first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for your yes.
I'm sorry.
Thank you for your yes.
Okay. Yes. My story started back on Detroit's west side on Robeson Street. I was considered like the neighborhood therapist. You know how like Lucy on Charlie Brown, she used to kind of set up, shop, for people to have counseling. That was me. I was that little girl that always wanted to see everybody happy and healthy in relationships. And that remains true today. So I went into the field of counseling. Like I said, I've always wanted to counsel because I love seeing people happy. I love seeing people operating in total wellness. So this has always been me.
Awesome. So how old were you at that age when you were in your neighborhood dropping counseling jewels?
I know it's probably elementary school because they used to call me Mother Wise. Okay, here come Mother Wise. She's about to tell us what to do. And I think back then, people were kind of teasing me about it, but it was something that I knew I was called to do. I mean, in our yearbook, when they ask you, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to be the best psychologist ever. And so that's what I've always wanted to do. And I pretty much stuck to that.
Okay. Awesome. So why relationship therapist? Do you just focus specifically on relationship therapy, or do you offer other type of therapy as well?
Well, when you think about it, Queen, everything is about a relationship.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everything is about a relationship. But in terms of the type of relationships that I work with, I really like working with mother-daughter relationships and also romantic relationships. Those are the relationships that I really like to focus on.
Okay, very, very good. Now, this question was going to come later on, but I'm going to ask it now. Have you ever had a client where you had to just say, just cut that person off? Don't communicate with them no more. Have you ever had?
Well,
do that.
You
or do you recommend that?
I'm sorry, say that one more time, Queen.
Or do you recommend that?
No, you don't. I don't really. You can't really tell people not to be in a relationship. You have to let them come to that on themselves. But if it's a situation where someone is actually, they're putting themselves at risk to be harmed, all you can really say is get yourself to a safe space. You really can't tell people what to do.
Okay. Very cool. Okay, so now with you being a relationship therapist, how do you, because you deal with a lot of energy, different personalities and situations, like how do you release, disconnect, and like take care of yourself, get your self-care?
Wow, that's a big one, Queen, because sometimes it's so hard to do that because I'm a mother, a wife, so business owner. So sometimes it's really hard to do that. So I have to be really intentional about doing that. Like I said, my faith is very important to me, and having a home, my relationships here, in my immediate relationships, I'm very selective about the people that I keep around me because, when you think about this kind of work, it can be very taxing at times. Although I enjoy it, but it can be very taxing. So I make sure that I just keep really good people around me. I don't waste time with people that are that are toxic, that are going to drag me down. So I'm very intentional about that. taking time off. In the beginning, I would not take any time off. I just worked all the time. And so I make sure that I take time off, and self-care is very important. Yes.
Okay. Now, you know that they say the therapist has a therapist. So do you or do you have a therapist, or do you have like a person in your group where your family, your circle, your community, where you like, this is the person where I can go and I can talk to, I can drop off, I can release, I can let go, whether that's just sitting with your husband, going for a walk, or like, do you have that? Is it a therapist, or you just have your people where you like, this is who I go and I release and let go?
Yeah. In the past, and that's a great question. In the past, I've had a therapist just here recently. And so whenever I need to talk to somebody, I'll go to my therapist. But I also have really good friends too,
Right.
that I can depend on, who are prayer warriors. So my husband is, good too in that area too. So yes, you definitely have to have your people.
Yeah, no, for real. Because I know it's like I can only imagine you have so much coming at you. And even if you're dealing with the same person every day, every visit can be something different, a different experience, I would assume.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
Like I said, yeah, because you can really, a lot of times you have clients for, years, and some you have just, for a brief period.
Okay.
So just balancing it and making sure you're taking care of yourself, Queen, like you said, that is so very important.
What's the longest client that you've had? Because you said you have some for years, like for how long?
Well, so let's say someone will start and stop. I would say 5, 6 years. Yeah.
Okay. Do they get a
People.
discount?
I'm sorry, say it again, Queen.
Do they get a discount? If they
Well, we do have a sliding scale, but we take insurance too.
Insurance is good. Insurance is good.
Insurance, sometimes managed care can be a little challenging, but it's good to have because counseling can become very expensive. So,
yes.
Managed care is sometimes it can be a little challenging.
Yes. So let's talk about some of these concepts that you have that's really cool. Like one of them is called the truth. It says truth party for relationships.
Yes.
How did that come about, and how does it work?
Wow. Well, let me back up a little bit. Growing up, I didn't necessarily have a lot of married people around me. My parents divorced when I was very young. And me and my sister grew up thinking divorce was hereditary. So I would say, this is what I would say. This is so bad. I would say we would both say we're going to at least get married and divorced at least one time, because we thought that was the norm. That's what happened.
Wow.
So when I went into grad school, I knew right away that I wanted to focus on relationships, because I wanted, because in the African American community, a lot of us aren't getting married, so that was kind of troubling to me. So I developed these parties called truth parties for relationships, because I feel like a lot of times while we're not entering into relationships, because we're not exploring our truth, like what keeps us from really, engaging in a relationship. So I would get single men and women together to explore their truth, and I would have various topics to really help them. It was almost like group therapy, but it was so much fun. It was entertaining. It was educational, but it was a way to get single men and women together, with not male and female bashing, but it was a way to get them together to explore their truth in dating relationships.
Yeah. So with the truth parties and date, when a person says like their truth, so did you have couples come, whether they were married or single dating, and they would come and share a truth that the other didn't know and they were unaccepting? How did that work out?
Well, for the most part, everybody was single. Everybody was single because they were looking for, they wanted to mingle. They really wanted to mingle. It was rare that I got, couples. I mean, people were coming there looking for to be in a dating relationship. So it was rare that I got married people, because here's the thing: you can't mix the two together, because single people get upset, like, why you got these married people here? Because sometimes it's like, not that they get jealous, but it's almost like, I don't want to hear about your marriage. Gotcha. And I'm single. That's what some people felt, because sometimes some married people would trickle in there, and they would get a little offended. So I really tried to keep it just for singles.
Okay. And what has been the success rate when you've done it, as far as like people meeting, people connecting, staying together? Have you been able to keep up with those stories? our
I haven't
connection?
been able to measure that. One of the things I have been able to measure, they'll say to me, wow, Nneka, you help me, explore my truth more. Because
Mm,
sometimes things can become so normalized that you don't know that you're doing. You don't know that you're an unforgiving person. You don't know you got anger issues until you
mm-hmm.
don't know who you are until you get into a relationship.
How about that? Because
That
they
person
expose you.
sees, huh?
They expose you,
Oh
or
my
you
gosh,
expose
yes.
them. Hmm.
Very true.
Right,
Very
because
true.
what are your thoughts on, how people say, in the first 30 days or 90 days the representative shows up, and then the truth, the real person comes out. Do you believe that has a lot of truth?
Absolutely. Yeah. Because when you start interacting with somebody, again, because wow, absolutely yes. To answer that question straightforward, yes, I really believe, and I don't think it's intentional. I think yes, we always want to put our best foot forward. It's like an interview, job.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You get in that job, you're working hard, you're
Mm-hmm.
crossing all your T's, dotting all your I's,
And
and then
then
you
your
don't know.
insurance kick in. Then your insurance kick in, and they hire you. You like, I'm good, and you start slacking up.
You do. So it's easy to get in a relationship, but the managing piece is what's hard. And that's the thing. It's
I
just
like
like
that. The managing
yeah,
piece.
it's hard for people to manage relationships. It's easy to
Mm,
get in though, but it's the
yeah.
sticking to it.
And what would you say? Because you mentioned, people want to get married. I think now a lot of people are getting married and not really managing before the marriage. Really, I think that I'm a big advocate for therapy, individual therapy, couples like pre-marriage therapy.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure that you are also, because you're a therapist. And I think more so now more than ever, especially with us coming out of a pandemic and all of that. But I think a lot of people are moving towards marriage and for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, so you're asking. So can you repeat that
So what's
question?
your thoughts on, do you believe that people are marrying for the wrong reasons and marrying too soon without really doing the work, really knowing themselves and then knowing who they're marrying?
Yeah, I think in some cases, yeah, yes. I
Mhm.
think some people are more interested in the pomp and circumstance of
Mm,
getting married, right? And
mhm,
don't necessarily think about, the investment, the time, it's a selfless thing. And
mhm,
so some people just get wrapped up in that. But then you do have some people that, that have seen marriage, they've seen their parents
mhm,
be married and they've
mhm,
had marriage around them, and so they know so they're in it to win it. They're in it to actually
mhm.
see it to the finish line. So yeah, so it's a half and half, I would say.
Yeah. Have you noticed, and I've noticed this like with my own group, that uh, men or women that come from a family where the parents have been together for many, many years, most of them, that's what they want. That's what their heart desire is. But it's a challenge for them.
Oh yeah.
And how do they? Because I have friends that it's because, and this is like, it's still in the 90s. This dating now is something totally different. But in the 90s, they were still going through that. So how do you guide them? Like, what do you tell them? Keep hope alive.
Well, I think it's so important that people explore their truth because it's
Mm-hmm.
through our interaction with each other that we come to know each other
Mm-hmm.
ourselves, right? My husband
Mm-hmm.
sees me more than I see myself. I see him more
Mm-hmm.
than he sees himself. So in a
Mm-hmm.
relationship, your partner should be able to influence you. If I can't influence you and say,
Mm-hmm.
hey, this is how I'm experiencing you,
Mm-hmm.
it's not gonna work. I remember probably about a year into my marriage, my
Mm-hmm.
husband said to me, he says, Nneka, you know what? You can be so unforgiving at times. And I'm like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Me?
Mm-hmm.
And thank God I was able to receive that because I thought about it. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I know where that comes from. I know where that
Mm-hmm.
comes from. And so I had to take accountability for it. I mean, you gotta be able
Mm-hmm.
to take accountability for things if
Mm-hmm.
you can't
Mm-hmm.
change it because I didn't realize that when I thought about it, I'm like, man, I grew up. I could hold a mean grudge. If somebody
Mm-hmm.
wronged me, and that's what I saw in my household,
Mm-hmm.
from my parents, and I could hold a mean grudge. So if someone wronged me,
Mm-hmm.
we could be in the same room. I would ignore you. And you can't do that in a marriage. You can't
Okay.
be going a week without talking to your spouse
Mm-hmm.
because I'm mad.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no.
Right.
So it was nice that, he saw that and pointed it out. And so I'm like, okay. this is something I
Thank
need
you.
to fix.
Yes. So explain to us. It's called Behind the 90s docuseries.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that when you explained it to me and Katanya the other night, I was like, yo, that is dope. The way you talked about the 90% and the 10%, because I think that if we know these things, because a lot of times we're going and we're floating through life, like as far as like, oh, my parents been married for a long time, so you expect to meet someone in the same, and that goes back to truth because that may not be your truth. That might not be your purpose and your reason for being here, right? Like people go
Yeah.
to church and they go to church, not even just church, they're in a religion, but they never really took the time to, does this really work for me? Or is this something I was born into and I'm doing it because that's what we do?
That's what we
But
do.
is my truth, does this really feed me and serve me? Nothing against the practice, but is this what I need? So with Behind the 90s docuseries, when you explained to me and Katanya, I was like, wow. And we started a whole conversation about that, which also opened up a nut for our event that we have coming up. We was like, oh, we're gonna do it like this. Because we be on, like, when we talk about, we be on there like this, y'all, late at night. We're not doing it tonight, Katanya. We be on that late at night playing. Katanya be like, yeah, let's go. But yes, please explain Behind the 90s docuseries with Nneka, the whole concept.
Yeah. It is kind of like related to the truth. I kind of like just changed the name, but 90% of what we go through in life is about our past, and only 10% is about the present. So when I have couples come into my office and say, oh, the infidelity is the issue, the anger, his anger or her anger is the issue, I often say those things are symptomatic of something bigger, right? So that's, anger, infidelity is symptom. What, the 90% is the story. So I often tell people, they want to focus on symptom, and you can't focus on symptom if you want to cure a problem. You got to understand what the problem is. If I got a headache, let's find out why I got a headache.
Not
So
just
I
give me a
think it's
Tylenol.
important. Yeah, exactly. No, so it may be hypertension. It may be who knows what it is, right? But you need to understand so that you can treat the problem. So it's really to encourage people to explore their 90%, because the 10% is it's symptom, but we want to get to the problem. When you think about the iceberg, I often do the iceberg. I give the iceberg picture to my clients. And so at the tip, you see the tip, and then underneath is this massive amount of ice, and that represents the person's story.
And it's pretty much like the foundation. It's your foundation,
Yes.
It's the foundation. You can use that one. It's your foundation. So the first documentary that you did, it is called Beauty from the Ashes, the story of three daughters. And these are women that are not related. And share with us the documentary, what inspired it, and where they can see it. And we do have the trailer. So I'm gonna actually place the link for the trailer. Oh, I don't even think y'all gonna be able to link it, but it's here if y'all type real good. I'm gonna place the link so you all can go and watch it. And I'll also place it on the YouTube channel after this post. So you all can go watch the trailer. Yeah. So I just put it in the chat. But yes, please share with us the Beauty from Ashes.
Yeah. So in 2017, I came across a young lady. Her name was Nneka J. And she was telling me stories about her mom. It was, like I said, it was in 2017. I started hearing more and more stories about problematic mother-daughter relationships in the African-American community. Not just in the African-American community. It was in all races, because all people can encounter that problem.
Right.
But I wanted to focus on the African-American community. I wanted to understand, what went behind, what's behind mothers and daughters having a problem in their relationship. So it was that story that really kicked things off, because some of the things that she was talking about with respect to her mom, I feel like I was so clueless, because I have a good relationship with mom. And I'm thinking, man, in my mind, I'm thinking all mothers love their daughters. I didn't really consider that a mother could be so detached from her daughter. Then there was other stories that came. And so I asked these ladies, hey, would you like to be a part of a documentary, sharing your stories, not to demonize Black mothers,
Right.
but to really, because that's not what we want to do, because we
Mm-mm.
know that mothers were once daughters themselves, and it's that
That's right.
multi-generational thing that happens, and you got to, at some point, you got to cut it off and recognize, like, hey, this is something we're passing down.
Mm-hmm.
So they
Mm-hmm.
decided to share their stories. One of the mothers, I don't want to tell it because I want people to watch it, but we had a mother that was on there that kind of shared her challenges in life and
Mm-hmm.
what made her disconnect from her daughter. So she was a brave woman talking about
Mm-hmm.
some of her challenge that caused her to disconnect from her daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Just very compelling stories. Just trying to create a community around this topic, because some people are so like, oh, you can't talk about mothers. Mothers have this like halo effect, and we think all mothers are nurturers, all mothers are caregivers, when in
Mm-hmm.
fact they aren't. So we wanted to see how slavery impacted those relationships.
Mm.
How
You better go ahead and talk about it.
yeah, and how undiagnosed and untreated mental illness played a part in those relationships. So that's basically what we capture in the documentary.
Awesome, awesome. So again, I put the link for the trailer, and I also put it on the my Facebook and YouTube channel, so you can all check out, and my IG. So funny, we ain't gonna talk about IG, but y'all get it. So yes, so I checked out. I did view the trailer when we first connected. When you sent it to me, I viewed the trailer, and at first I was thinking that they were all sisters having a different experience with one mother, and I was like, oh, what? And I think it's important because relationships, mother-daughter relationships, are challenging. I know that me and my mother had challenges. I've come through it because my mother be doing too much sometimes.
I'm sorry, Queen. Okay.
They be doing yeah.
She doing too
So
much.
yeah, but yeah, love her. However, she be doing too much. But I think that is very important. That's very important because this another thing we talked about the other night, because you talked about a lot of times it was the father, but then you realize it's not just the father,
Yeah.
it's the mother, because a lot of times people may say, oh, I have abandonment issues and stuff because my father wasn't there. But you can have your mother there or vice versa, right? One parent there, and you can have abandonment issues with the parent that's there, because just because they're there doesn't mean that you're not being abandoned, right? So
Absolutely.
it's a lot of stuff that I think that's really, really great. So the docu-series, so this is something that you're going to do different stories about going forward. You'll
Yeah.
interview different people. I think that
Yeah.
is really dope.
So right now I want to exhaust this as much as I can, because we had the premiere in December of last year, and after each viewing we had some panel discussions with the ladies, and the conversations were so rich. It really inspired people to kind of say, hey, I had that problem too. Hey, I had that problem too. So when you build community around it, people are not so afraid to talk about it. So that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to expand my reach and just really get people to talking about it. And again, I want to repeat this, not to demonize Black moms,
No,
because
not at all.
not at all, but we do need to shed some light on this, because a lot of people are suffering in silence and thinking that they're alone. Like, why couldn't I be loved by my mom? That's how some people feel.
Yeah. And I think that is really important now, because like when we look at our generation, our parents were kind of like the silent, certain things they didn't talk about, they didn't discuss, like they didn't tell us about menopause, but we're not going to do that. We're going to have a whole show about that. Why ain't nobody tell me? You know what I'm saying? So I think now generations behind us, I don't think it's a problem being cool with your kids and thing, but I think that there's definitely no boundary set. So the relationships with the mother and daughter in some cases are more detrimental at the generations behind our generation, because the way they kind of congregate and lorter together. You know what I'm saying? It's because I'll be looking like I've had to tell people, like they'll say like certain things to like my nephew, or and I'm like, no, we don't talk to our children like that, or we don't say these things. Like I love a good time, a good laugh, kiki, and I can cuss all of that. But like around my nieces and nephews, it's certain, even with them being adults, there's certain conversations I don't have with them. But now in generations, people just have any type of conversation about anything, and they don't have no cut cards. So I think that is very, to me, unhealthy.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, there has to be some boundaries there.
Yes.
There definitely has to be some boundaries.
So in your relationship, in your practice, Is that one of the things that comes up about boundaries, setting boundaries and communication? I'm sure that's a huge one.
Oh yeah, right.
Mhm.
Because what you find, unfortunately, in the African American community, you find that in some cases, not all cases, but in some cases, mothers, are raising kids, by themselves,
Mhm.
and they kind of parentify. We call parentification, where we kind of make our kids part of the parental team. And so
Mhm.
that's overstepping boundaries. It's like the boundary is they should be able to be
Mhm.
kids, right?
Right, right.
So just kind of got to be mindful of that. It's just like got to really allow kids to be kids, and I think that's one of the in my practice when I do counsel, sometimes when I do counsel, that's an issue. Just
Mhm.
looking at when there is not a man in the home, kind of
Mhm.
putting that child as part of the parental team, and that's a
Mhm.
that's a boundary that should not be overstepped.
Mhm. Mhm. So we have a question in the chat. Let me put this question up. Talking about Maisha's talking about how do you unpack someone's anger issues if the person does not admit that they have anger issues? Can you, as a therapist, help, or are you limited because they don't think they need help?
That's a really
Yeah.
good question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because if a person, this is like, it's like AA. The first order of business is say, the person has to say they're an alcoholic, right? And
Right.
you can't change what you don't acknowledge. If a
That's
person
right.
does not acknowledge that they have anger issues, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's part of the recovery,
Mm-hmm.
is to be able to acknowledge that you have
Mm-hmm.
anger issues. And if you can't acknowledge it, you can't change it because to you it's not there. But the unfortunate thing is sometimes things become so normalized that people can't see it. So I wouldn't give up on, helping someone to see that, because when things become normalized, you just feel like, no, I'm good. This is, you know,
Mm-hmm.
counseling is definitely
Mm-hmm.
beneficial in that way, because sometimes
Mm-hmm.
a person, someone can, a person can say something very clear, like, this is how I'm experiencing you. And they can be very, as a matter of fact,
Mm-hmm.
and clear about what their message is, and you still can't receive it. But sometimes you get into counseling, and the way they kind of lay things out, sometimes it can be well received. It shouldn't be that way, because again, your
Mm-hmm.
partner or the people that are around you should be able to influence a change and be able to say, this is how I'm experiencing you. And sometimes it's about how we say things too. I
Mm-hmm.
think that will determine if a person can receive what you have to say.
Right. It's never what you say, it's how you say it. So as a therapist, do you be in your house therapying with your family or do they use it against you?
But I have teens and I have a 23-year-old. So it's funny that sometimes they will ask me questions centered around different things with
Mm-hmm.
respect to relationships. But my husband he don't necessarily want to hear that. So I kind of have to sneak it in a little bit,
Uh,
where it was just basically applying some of the tools that I give people in terms of how
mhm,
I talk to him, right? So it's
mhm,
not so
mhm.
much me, providing therapy, but it's like, I don't always get it right. I don't. So I'm not trying
Right,
to
right.
create
Mhm,
this thing where I'm
mhm,
thinking I'm just this perfect wife, but I try to practice what I preach, basically. So if that's kind of therapeutic, okay, but I'm just using the tools and not
mhm,
being the
mhm.
therapist per se, but being the wife who's trying to, use some of the tools that I tell people to
The
use.
training, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing because you're going to listen differently. But then also you can have that side too, like you know better because I do this and I've raised, and in the house we do this. So you be like, you did what?
Yes.
I trained you better than that.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
I'm about to be a little messy. Have you ever had a client where they were like, you couldn't get through to them, they couldn't hear you, they were not, and you just wanted to walk out the room, scream, like, how do you handle, because the session is what, 45 minutes to an hour,
Yes.
and you got to sit, you be like, I can't wait till this session over. I know you done said, you ain't got to respond, Nneka, but I know you done said, damn, like, when you leaving, I hope they just walk their ass up out of here. You want them to get the best. You want the best for them. But have you ever fired a client?
Yes, I
I
have.
know that's right.
Yeah.
Sometimes they got to go.
Yeah, because again, it's a waste of your time. It's a waste of their time and my time. If I'm not the right therapist for you and you can't
Mhm,
receive from me,
mhm.
sometimes people are just not ready for the experience. because therapy is an experience. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember when I was a young therapist, when people wouldn't come back, I would blame myself. Oh my gosh, what did I do wrong? And my mentor would say, listen, if they didn't come back, it has nothing to do with you. Sometimes you touch a nerve, you hit a nerve, and they're like, I don't want to go there no more. She having me go places I don't want to go, so I'm about to stop. So,
but that's powerful. Having me go places I don't want to go. So basically, you was on the right track, possibly, but they pulled out. But not necessarily. They could have did some other work, right? Because they could stop coming to you and just be doing some other work on their own.
yeah.
Or go someplace else. But yeah, but I think that a lot of times people, when we strike a nerve, sometimes you'll talk with a friend or say something and they'll get upset with you because you kind of gave them the truth, or was the truth, whether they let you know or not. So that's deepness. That's powerful. So first of all, thank you for your service, because it's very courageous and compassion. They have to have a certain type of compassion to want to support and help people in that manner. And I know that how was your experience during the pandemic? First of all, did you work through the pandemic?
Wow.
Did you go to video? And did you get more? Yeah, were you exhausted? No, that you got to ask that incorrectly. Was you exhausted?
I was, yeah.
Yes.
Because I think there people who weren't hadn't bought into therapy started to buy into therapy. And we were doing virtual. We were definitely, we had less cancellations, we had more retention. People, it was really beautiful to see people saying to themselves, hey, I need help, I need to work on this, because you ain't have nowhere to go,
right,
or deal with yourself. So that was really, it was a busy time for me and my my practice. It was a busy time, and it's still busy because we're still able to do virtual too, because some people want to continue to do virtual. So I think it was a great, it was, not to say that the pandemic brought about some good things and bad things. It really showed us that we can do virtual and be successful, and it can be well received and beneficial.
Very good, very good. All right, so what we about to get into, Nneka? What we about to get into is a real. I hope y'all listen. And so I think we mentioned it. We actually put it up a few weeks ago, but it is official. Nneka J, Owens, and myself, Queen Aishah, we have partnered to co-host an event on the Tom Joyner Foundation Party with the Purpose Cruise, May 20th through May 27th. And we are using the title of one of Nneka's events that she does, called Dating Under the Influence. And I just added this as I was typing it, because we said what we're not doing on a party cruise is not seminaring and workshopping.
There you go.
So it is a relationship chat / conversation. And the way it came about, for you all that know or don't know, I appeared on the groundbreaking docuseries on the OWN network called All the Single Ladies, that aired January of this year. And someone that I know that's affiliated with Urban, well, she works for Urban One and works with the Tom Joyner Cruise. Girl, I had my door open today. I see little bugs flying around. And she reached out to me and she connected me and Nneka to put together something for the singles, but we know more than the singles going to be up in there. Right. The singles on the Tom Joyner Cruise. So we're actually presenting it twice, on the cruise in the beginning and towards the end. We're going to see how that work out. So we're really, really excited, and we're working really hard.
Yes, we are.
We're working really hard to make it. It is going to be a great success. It is going to be talked about. It's going to be loved. It's going to be accepted. So Nneka, share with us how you came up with Dating Under the Influence and the RAM concept, and how important this is when it comes to relationships and dating and all.
Yeah. So dating under the influence, when you think about like driving under the influence, dating under the influence, like what are some of the influences that we house when it comes to being in relationships? There's the influence of your parents, there's the influence of friends, there's the influence of your past romantic relationships. there's so many things that influence how you are going to, engage in a relationship. So that's one of the things that we're going to talk about. So I'm so excited to actually talk about
And
that.
I actually just thought about it. That brings in when you say how everything is connected from your past. Again, that's that 90% you speak about too.
Yes.
So yeah, so we have some really, so anyone that may be watching that's going on the Time Journal cruise, and when you watch later, we told you it's going to be we have some really great things. It's going to be fun, it's going to be lively, and it's going to be educational. So I got to come up with a word. Funicational. Something like that.
Funnication.
Funicational. It's going to be, but we are not workshopping and seminaring.
That's good. I love it. I love it.
So what Genevieve says, she interested in dating, but only married men ask her for dates. Do you advocate women asking men to take them on dates? Yeah, what is your thoughts on the women? So
yeah,
you mean asking a man to go on a date, Genevieve? Here's the thing. I'm gonna say this because I was born in the 70s, and I believe men are hunters. But I also believe it's nothing wrong with giving a compliment. But I think that men are hunters, and that they need to pursue their prey.
Yeah, I would agree too. But I think it's, if you can pull it off, I couldn't pull that off. If I was single and trying to mingle, I just could not pull that off. But I think it's I don't think there's no absolutes in life. Like, you absolutely should not do this. If you feel like you can pull that off and that's something that you want to do, I don't see anything is wrong with it. But like you said, the queen, men are hunters and they like to hunt. But some men, again, but not all men, they don't mind that.
Yeah, because for me, like I'm the type of person, like, women are like, no, he got to do this, he got to do that for me. That's why for me, I think that if you've kind of established something with someone, I'm not saying they got to be 10 years. It could be 10 days, 10 minutes. But if you feeling a vibe and somebody's like, oh, it's my birthday or I'm having a bad day, and you're able, I think that it's nothing, because that's another human being. I think it's nothing wrong with saying, like, let me treat you to dinner, lunch, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's nothing wrong with that. Now, I know I had one situation where a gentleman was taking care of something, and then I stepped in one time, and he was like, that's what we doing? Okay, you got it. So I think at times we got to kind of step back and just stay in our lady, and just be patient enough to allow a person to do for you. But I think if you see somebody, because Genevieve, you only live once. If you're walking through the Baltimore Harbor and you see him, you might have to say, like, you trying to get an Auntie Anne's pretzel or what?
Yeah, I really believe it's again, if you can pull that off and that's your personality, like I said, I just couldn't pull it off. I would be stuttering and nervous. No.
So you ain't never asked no guy on no date.
But I would just create I often say, just give a person a green light. I remember when I was dating and not married, people would say I look very mean. I didn't smile. So they said, you got to kind of smile a little, not, like be grinning like something wrong with you. But, it's just like, look pleasant. And I didn't realize I wasn't looking pleasant. So
approachable. Because I got that what they call the resting itch face. Right.
Yeah, so you just got to be mindful if you do want to be in a relationship, and if you're not comfortable with approaching someone, and you're in an environment where people are kind of connecting with you, just look pleasant. Or just anywhere. If you're at the mall, you're at the grocery store, look approachable.
Right.
You
I like that. Look
approachable. Talk to you.
Yes.
You don't want to be shut down.
Yes, I agree that. Look approachable. So yes, Genevieve, you're gonna have to work that out. Now I just saw Genevieve, she had another one.
Yeah.
So I believe that having to take care of the other siblings.
Yeah. It's called parentification. I did something on that. A little video I did with my kids. During the pandemic, I was taping videos and just kind of express. That's what it's called, parentification. So a lot of times people don't realize, he's the man of the house. No, he's not the man of the house. He's your son. He's not the woman of the house. He's your daughter. He's not your partner. And so you got to be careful. He the man of the house. Like, no, we don't want to say that.
Little man, because you give him a lot of responsibility. Because it sounds cute, but the stress, when you really think of the lady of the house, the woman of the house, the man of that, those responsibilities, that's a lot.
That is.
Even if they don't know it, that's a lot. For a 5-year-old, that's a lot.
That is. But you do have a lot of young people who are raising their siblings because, and I'm not knocking that, but I think because sometimes that's the only option, right? Unfortunately.
Right. Yeah. So hold on. So what would you add to as far as so when you talk about the dating under the influence, you touched on that, but you talked about how unsafe practices in relationships, as far as like you don't trust what you're doing, this you're touching, and expound on that, because the way I was like, wow, I was like, am I living right?
Yeah, so the relationship attachment model, and I did not come up with that, but it's basically the model talks about how we engage in relationships, what should happen first. It's the knowing first, and in order to, when you know someone, hopefully you can start to trust someone, and then once you trust someone, you can start to rely on someone, and once you know, trust, rely, hopefully there's a commitment in store, and then you go to touching. But sometimes people go to the touching first before they know a person, or they start to trust someone before they know them. So the model is basically a way for people to kind of evaluate themselves and say, okay, how are you engaging in relationships? Do you know the person before you can trust them, and so on and so forth? So because sometimes we just go right to the intimacy, the touching part, and it kind of, and again, to each his own. I'm not judging, but I think it needs to, there should be an order when we are in dating relationships. Get to know a person first. Don't automatically just trust them, and so that's the model based in a nutshell.
And what do you, and thank you for that. And what do you recommend as far as dating, when it's okay to trust, rely, touch?
Yeah. You just got to invest the time. I think about, let me just give an example of my relationship with my husband, because again, I went in saying to myself, I was scared. I was very afraid to be in the relationship because he came from 2 parents that were married. I came from, a broken home. And so for me, it took a lot for me to trust. So I was saying, I'm not doing this until this, I'm not no intimacy until this. And so that was because of my fears of, committing to someone, because I didn't trust that, I could go the distance, not so much him. I didn't trust that I could go the distance. So my process was a little, it was a little challenging at times, because yes, I was getting to know the person. However, it's still, just because you're getting to know someone, that doesn't mean you're going to trust them automatically. It still takes time. You gotta go through some things. We had to go through some things, and he wasn't letting go. I was all over the place, and he stood firm. And so that kind of like, wow, okay, I'm kind of having these anxious episodes and fearing of the worst, and he stuck it out. I remember him saying, just because we have challenging times, I was always breaking up with people. I break up with you. It's just like, just because, but that's what I saw. That's what happened. And, in the relationship that were around me, when people got into it, they broke up. So I thought, we get into it, we break up. He says, no, that ain't what happened. We worked through it. So that, he was good with helping me kind of navigate through that process. And so if you have somebody that will help you navigate the process, you can get to those places. You can make it to the finish line.
I think that's so important, because we're here from one another, and we just have to find out that puzzle that fits your piece, and that, I think that does come with time, and everybody's time is different. Everybody's time is different. How long were you in a single relationship dating with your husband before you all married?
2 years. Yeah. So it was 2 years, and I was scared then. I mean, I remember the night of, I just didn't trust me, because I didn't see it. I didn't see a relationship going the distance. But I mean, we've been married 20 years next year. It'll be 20 years. It's 19 years. But yeah, it's good. It's a good relationship, you know, and I got my person, and we're not perfect,
Of
but
course.
it's it works when
Mm-hmm.
you put the time and effort in, and you can kind of
Mm-hmm.
look at yourself and see what your flaws are and work to make some changes.
Very good. What do you recommend for people that are dating? Like how soon? Because I know it's the rely, getting to know and relying and all of that. As far as sharing, I guess vulnerable information. Like you would talk about how you would like have your, like for you to say you have your episodes, you were anxious. Like you that can come on and you don't even know it's about to come on, right?
Yeah.
So you all were together 2 years, so of course it happened before you all got married.
Oh yeah.
So how do you say to someone what's a good time to share your most vulnerable parts of yourself with someone?
Well, sometimes you don't even have any control over it. It
Right.
just
That's what I'm gonna say.
happens.
Some things, right?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it just happens, but I think again it varies from relationship to relationship. He showed me early on that he could be trusted.
Mm-hmm.
So as I felt, because my thing is I don't feel like I should share something with someone if we're not going to go the distance, but I knew we
Hello.
would go the distance. And
Mm-hmm.
so therefore I could kind of share a little at a time, and you know, as
Mm-hmm.
I felt like he was ready to hear certain things about my childhood. And
Mm-hmm.
so it really depends on the person, but sometimes you can't really get around it because as you start to experience somebody, he's like, "Why are you shutting down? Like, what is that about?" And so that's that
Mm-hmm.
90%. He saw what he
Mm-hmm.
saw on the surface, you know, I'm shutting
Mm-hmm.
down and breaking up, and but there was the 90% of that was I didn't see relationships go the distance, so I was
Mm-hmm.
afraid that I couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Do you think that people share too much too soon? Because that's part of kind of trusting too early.
Yes, I would
Mhm,
agree. Yeah,
mhm,
it's just time. You gotta really my brother was so funny. He just started dating. He says, I said, "So are you ready to commit to this person?" He says, "No, we've only gone through one season, and that's the winter season.
mm.
So now we gotta go through the spring and summer. I gotta see, we gotta get back to the winter season and see how we do." He said, because sometimes people change during the seasons, and
When
I
they
want
get dry and ashy, tell them I said yes, because Vagisil and Aquaphor, you need it for them elbows and them knees, because you need to know.
so that when he said that, I was like, "Oh, okay." He says, "We only been through one season together. We need to go through a few more seasons before I decide if we gonna be a couple." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
I like that, and you know what? I like when men, because you have a lot of women that are like we plan, we organize, we're not going to do. But I like when a man is like he's not rushing to the sex, so he's
Yeah,
taking his time, and I think that's a swag, that's attractive. Like if I hear a friend that's saying, I was like, yo, that's dope. Not in a controlling way, but I'm gonna put my time into this to know that I'm not wasting my time.
yeah.
So you have to be really focused and committed. So I think that's dope. Tell them I said that's cool though. Get that Vaseline, that Aquaphor before the winter comes though.
I know, I know. That is funny. When he said that, I'm like, "Oh, okay. I didn't think about that." So
Very good. So before we close, Nneka J. Owens, what advice would you offer to people that are in relationships that are seeking to someone that's seeking to be in a relationship, that's in a relationship, they're like, I think this season over.
right.
Right, like spring almost over, the summer coming, and I'm not gonna be here no more. Like, what would you offer to people as far as healthy relationships? Because you talked about the relying and all of that, but like really to make a relationship, to honor yourself
Yeah.
and to honor the relationship. What would you offer to people just to to be safe in who you are in and then
Yeah.
moving into a relationship? I
I
might
think
answer
that
that myself. Get to know your damn self first.
yeah, and that's a great question. I think what ends up happening is we make too many things a priority. I got to have
Mm,
this, I got to have that, I got to have all these things, and you got to lay a foundation. I think sometimes people want everything at once, and sometimes you got to
mhm,
work on the building of the relationship and just being
mhm.
patient with it. So you may not have the best communication right off, but you work toward that.
Yes.
So I would say definitely, you know, prioritize what's important. Everything can't be important. And just being
Mm,
open to taking a look at yourself, knowing that you are a flawed individual and that you may learn some things about yourself, and you got to decide what am I going to do with the things that I'm learning? Am I
mm,
going to shut down? So you got to ask yourself some tough questions. There should be some questions that you ask yourself when you are in a relationship, because again, that's when you really get to know yourself. And if you can't
mhm,
really stomach what you learn, you're not going to go the distance. If you're going to be defensive and you're going to be, like,
mhm.
no, that ain't me. But I'm saying this is how I'm experiencing you. It's
Right.
worth it for you to kind of look into it. So I would say, the first thing is, like I said, just prioritize. Don't make everything important. Be
Mhm,
open to understanding who you are and making some changes. The person that you're with should be able to influence something. If you're spending time with the person, they should
mhm.
be able to influence something and you not be defensive about it.
And
So,
we have to be careful who we share our time with too,
yes.
because sometimes, like you said, you're protective. Everybody can't get your time.
Yeah.
Everybody can't get your time.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you, thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Yes.
This is
So,
great.
yes, ma'am, I appreciate your time because Nneka starts her day very early in the morning, and for her time, and then she has to give her time and attention to her clients, and then she come home. And I'm gonna say this, she ain't gonna say this, but I know she be ready to take her drawers and her bra off. But
But you're right.
no,
You're
for real,
right.
because when you done been holding up everything all day, you just like, I just need gravity to do what gravity do.
Yes. Hey, I would agree with you. I would agree with you.
Yes, yes. So we appreciate your time. We will be connecting. I can't remember what date. I got to look at our calendars in another day or two.
Friday.
We'll be
Right.
Friday. We'll be connecting. So thank you, Nneka J. Owens. It's Nneka J. Owens and Associates Counseling Office, and that's in the Dearborn, Michigan area. You also, so do you counsel outside of Michigan?
Yeah, well, no, my license don't extend to other states. There are some states that have reciprocity where you can, but
Okay.
I don't know what those states are.
Okay.
So I just
Okay.
really focus in Michigan.
Okay,
Yep,
because Detroit got a lot of work to do. Anyway,
we do.
so no.
We do.
But yes, thank you so much, Nneka. I love and appreciate you, and I will see
Likewise.
and talk to you in a couple of days. Everyone, please give it up for Nneka J. Owens for her sharing her tips on healthy relationships. This is important. This matters. This is how we build our community and our foundation. Please put your hands together for Nneka.
Thank you.
All
Thank you
right,
so
baby.
much.
You're
Thank you so
welcome,
much.
welcome. You're welcome. And I just want to let everybody know that the Girls Who Brunch, I did not put their information up, but the Girl Who Brunch tour, this is their 7th annual Tutus and Tennis Shoes Gala. And the website is girlswhobrunchtour.com. So please purchase tickets, support them if you can. And also for Nneka, you can follow her on IG. We had it up, but her IG is Nneka. That's Nneka, the letter J, Owens, Owens. And she's on IG. So y'all might want to slide in her DMs and ask some questions and all. I want to thank everybody who participated in the chat. Shout out to Miss Katanya Lester. Okay, because first of all, hey, Tanya, you heard your shout out. Tanya, you heard your shout out. Katanya is going on the cruise. We going on there and doing our I Know Dope People, Queen Aishah and Katanya Lester getting it done on the Tom Joyner cruise. So we are so looking forward to it. I actually surprised Katanya. She thought she didn't know what I was talking about when I told her we were going on. So she said, "Now what happened, Aisha? You want what? What happened?" I said, "Katanya, we going on a Tom Joyner cruise to work. It's like a fun vacation, workcation." And I actually had the opportunity to do the tour in 2008 with Leroy Williams, hypnotist, my brother. May he rest in peace. I went on as a guest friend of his, and it was amazing. It was an amazing time. I fell in love with Charlie Wilson in Puerto Rico at a burger restaurant in San Juan. Don't judge. Anyway, thank you all so very much for checking out I Know Dope People with Queen Aishah. Please give it up one more time for my very dope special guest. Her name is Nneka J. Owens. Now I'm going to take all this makeup off, fix my hair, and do something like this. Take my bra off and get comfortable. Peace and power. Thank you, Katonya.